welcome to episode 6 of the Livewire Gaming Show. This week we're going to break down our favorite Destiny raids. We did a voting system. We're going to break it down and see which one comes out on top. And then we're going to discuss some of our pet peeves and hates in games. And I have a list the length of my arm on that. And Dylan and Stephen are drinking, so that could get fun. Anyway, welcome. How are you guys this week?
Dale?
Yeah, good. Playing a lot. Well, playing one game a lot. I've jumped into the never-ending hole that is World of Warcraft again. So I've played about 40 hours this week alone. So yeah, that's pretty much taken over my days. It's one of those you're sitting there in the same position for hours on end. You think it's been 20 minutes. It's been 3 or 4 hours.
South Park guy.
That's what you're doing. Basically.
Yeah.
I think over the last 12 months we've all become a bit of a South Park guy.
I think so. It's only fair. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah, pretty much.
How are you finding being in an MMO now compared to Apex and Destiny?
It took a while to get used to it. Like it's for me, it's the whole you're doing, for want of a better phrase, side quests all the time, as opposed to doing like a main story. Like there is an overarching story, but it's all these side quests culminate into that big story. But yeah, no, I jumped in and I jumped into the new Chromie NPC that takes you back into older expansions. So I was playing through Legion for a good bit. Got it towards the end of that. So then, or I had already started that previously, and then I stopped playing for a few months, and now I'm playing through BFA. Really enjoying it.
BFA.
It's just Battle for Azeroth, the second most recent one. But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it. I was playing on controller before, and the controller support isn't great at all. Like the third party controller support is shit. They brought in with Shadowlands actual controller support from Blizzard, and it's very minimal. It's very tough to get your head around. So I got an adaptive mouse and I got shit from a keyboard, so I've been playing M&K on it. I'm really enjoying it.
Dill is officially an M&K player.
No, very slow, very slow. There's no way I could play like an FPS kind of fast paced game. Like I'm playing as a warrior, so I literally just have to stand there, dodge, hit, dodge, hit, dodge, hit. There's no maneuverability that I need to do.
That sounds like Sekiro practice, if anything.
Nah, no thanks.
Dodge hit.
Hard pass on that.
How are you, Stephen?
Sekiro.
Yeah, I'm good. Gaming wise, I've been trying to get back into Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is it's
amazing.
Just such a beautiful game. Like I've been trying to mess with some stream and stuff, and I had to knock it down to 1080p, and I really noticed a difference. So my monitor
stream and stuff. Sorry, never mind. Go on.
Yeah, so my monitor is only a 1440p monitor, but because of the way the PS5 upscales, it will output 4K. Now, 4K in quotations. But the difference it makes between 4K and 1080 is insane.
Yeah.
And that is just and HDR as well. And like that game is just popping with colors. So
and you really do, like, because I'm playing on the Switch, so handheld and docked, it's just not even performance wise, just visually, it's just you don't want to play it to depreciate or devalue it, like.
No.
And especially on a PS5, I can imagine how nice it looks.
Yeah, and like the characters are just so well, like I think, as you know, Kev, if you watch Skillup's video, you either like the humor or you don't.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like I really love it. I love Greek mythology, and I love that they're not shying away from Zeus being the complete dick that he is, and hamming that up, and I really enjoy that. And yeah, so I've just been trying to get back into that and trying to figure out how to do streaming and
a few extra grey hairs this week after trying to figure out streaming, it seems.
Yeah, and it's not figured out yet, so I could be bald next week.
Just wait till you have audio issues.
That's kind of the
me
point
every week.
Yeah. So other than that, then nothing really. What about you, Kev? What have you been up to?
I think I've just been playing a lot of Destiny again, to be quite honest with you. I didn't play a whole lot of games over the weekend now. I just kind of... I don't even know what I fucking did. I'm just losing track of time. I built a bookshelf, which you can see behind me. That has not been fully occupied yet. I built another bookshelf there that is slantier than the Leaning Tower of Pisa because the floors in this house are ridiculous. But yeah, other than, like, I played a good bit of Pokemon, did some shiny hunting. Still haven't got the next shiny on that. I'm still on Regia, rocking them at 14, 18. So what's that, about 600 since last week or something, I think?
Jesus.
But just Destiny. Played some Trials. It was a crap map with crap loot and everyone was win trading, which we'll get to in a while. But didn't play a whole lot of that because it wasn't worth it. Then just did our weekly reset stuff.
And it got cancelled, didn't it?
It got cancelled because literally 70% of the player pool on PC that went flawless last weekend were win traded to flawless. So 70% of flawless players last weekend had 5 or less kills all weekend.
And 70% next weekend are going to be banned.
Well, that's the thing. It's so, to my knowledge, I didn't look into it because I'm not a cheating little scumbag. But to my knowledge, they're doing the same thing that the 12-man raid teams are doing. It's the same glitch that they use. I could be completely wrong on that. So I can't see them banning for it. I don't think they can ban for it really, because they'd have to ban 70% of the community.
That's like the biggest fucking loophole. It's like they can't
crazy.
get all of us.
Yeah, like it was a thing in year 1, Trials of the 9, where you'd join a Discord server and say there was 8 people in the server. You split into 2 teams, and the first 4 people let the other 4 get their flawless, and then vice versa would do the same. And they did ban a load of accounts for doing that. So there is precedent. But
Can't be one rule for one and not another for another.
But other than that, did I play anything on PlayStation? No. I watched nothing. It was a very odd, boring, forgetful week. However, Louise got her first ending of Cyberpunk. And I won't spoil which ending it was. It was the star ending is the title of it, which is the best ending. So, yeah, she got their first one. So she's going to get the other 3 or 4 done over the next few days. And then she's actually going to do a Cyberpunk review herself of her experience playing the game. So, looking forward to that. Louise will have a Cyberpunk review out before we do.
You should get her on that for a Cyberpunk episode.
Yeah. Do you know what? We'll just leave and leave you and Louise. So.
Yeah.
I'll just leave as well. Just let Louise do it.
True.
Just use her script. Yeah, I didn't do a whole lot, to be quite honest with you. I watched football. I watched some wrestling. I watched shit on telly. I can't.
Did you watch WandaVision?
No,
nope.
We haven't watched that yet. Sorry.
God. Finale tomorrow morning.
We start watching Modern Family again because Modern Family is just chill and easy to put on, and we all stand calm.
Never watched Modern Family.
Stephen, it's great. Modern Family.
I've heard it is.
It's one of those that I wish I had started watching it years ago, because the characters are all like, apart from maybe Manny, all the characters are really likable in it. So it's relatable, and the the granddad reminds me of my mom's partner, so it's quite funny. It hits close to home. It's very funny. Anyway, we should probably move on.
No, before we move on, I have one question left for Dill. Where are you in Final Fantasy VII Remake?
Oh, that's a great question.
Haven't touched it. Have not touched it.
He's still in Chapter 6 in the underbelly of...
No, that's where I have left off. I will be playing it a lot over the weekend, though, because I will be inside on the PlayStation. But I have not touched it. I had plans to play everything under the sun this week, but
it just doesn't happen.
Touched anything.
I didn't even do anything this week. That's the thing. I literally didn't. I wasn't busy at all, but I don't even know what I did. It's just one of those weeks that just I did nothing. Played some Destiny, but did nothing. I had planned. I actually went to launch The Last of Us on one of the nights to start finishing that. and turned on the PlayStation and then got distracted and then everyone went back to it. You know what I have been doing actually is a hell of a lot of Pokemon Go Battle League. That's what I've been doing all week. I don't know why.
Why?
It was the season reset this week. So I was
okay.
like, you know what? I've never actually invested in Go Battle League. So I'll invest in it this season. I'm at rank 10 or 11 already out of 20, so...
It's fun until you get to a certain rank because you can tell people are just using random whatever, especially if you're in the great version or the master or whatever it's currently on. But when you get past a certain level, you just see the same.
Yeah.
I remember the last season I played
Altaria, Stunfisk, some Medicham, a few Venusaurs. Then you have the fuckers that are using Clefable and Wigglytuff just because they're tanks. Yeah. It's just about trying to keep your team kind of fresh each time, and it's all right. Like, I'm having a bit of fun. Apart from the game, is just the connections on that game are terrible. You literally like bouncing your finger off the screen trying to fucking do your special attack, and it just they go first. It's like I've literally hit my screen 5 times. Anyway, should we move on?
Yeah.
All right, so the main topic this week, we're gonna go through each of Destiny 1 and Destiny 2's 12 raids. We did a very scientific way of voting. We each did our rank of 1 to 12 in reverse order, and then we got the average score of each one. So no spoilers, but if Dylan chose Rat of the Machine as his number 1, I chose Rat of the Machine as my number 5, and Steven chose it at his number 10. We added up 1, 5, and 10, and did that for all of the raids, and got a total score, with the lowest score being the winner, like the boring-ass game that is golf. So, if it's controversial...
I did not know that until
now.
Don't
blame us. That's the way we did it. We got the average score between us, and...
Oh, that's why you wanted 12, because I just wanted top 5.
Yeah, because if you had given us your top 5, Dylan,
nothing matters after 5.
No, it would have fucked off. So, I think what we should probably do is maybe from 6 to 12, we'll do it in reverse order, but kind of go through them quick enough, and then for the top 5 or 6, we'll actually have a bit of a discussion on them.
And it's probably worth mentioning, I don't think we know the results. You're the only one who actually has a full...
Oh, I thought you were doing up the scores as well.
I stopped because Dale was being poxy with his scores. Like, I'm not adding all this in.
What was I being poxy? I kept forgetting the raids after fucking 8. I was like, what one is left?
Yeah,
and then the one that we most done last season, I was like, oh shit, yeah.
I was literally about to fucking just go onto your Destiny raid report and just do it in whichever one. So say you did Vault of Glass 20 times, Crota 10 times, and meant you preferred Vault of Glass because you did it more. I was just going to pull your favorites by how many times you'd completed it, but then you gave me a...
I think I missed this conversation altogether.
Yeah, you must have.
I had to have, because I hadn't a clue what was going
on.
What
was funny, right? Steven kind of missed it as well, because Steven sent me a big description of how we should do it, and then I sent him a screenshot of me saying the exact same thing he'd said, and he's like, you bitching about me to Dill. And I was like, Steven, it's literally in the fucking general chat. It's been sitting there for 3 days. However, I will apologize, because I think I missed something in Discord a couple of weeks ago. It was about Mew, the intro or something. Oh, it was the Nintendo Pokemon Direct. You sent something in for the cover of it, Steven, and I only noticed it. I'd legit only seen it this morning. I was like, I feel real guilty. Anyway, without further ado, we'll get started. We will go in reverse order, with the least favorite one being last. And if there's any ties in this at any stage where 2 of them have drawn, we will do some sort of tiebreaker, unless it's like no one gives a shit about them. Anyway,
can we guess what they are? So, I think Dale's made a guess.
The least favorite one, is it?
Spyro Stars is last.
Spyro Stars came last. And I'll do it nice and quick, because it was always going to happen. Eater of Worlds came second last. That was with an average score of 11.667. So one of us chose Spyro Stars to not be last, and he's going to hang his head in shame, because it was me. But with an average... By the way, lowest possible score is 12. Spyro Stars ended on an 11.667, so it has been kicked out of the US Masters for this year.
So if you want to follow this like a normal person, it came in 12th.
It came in 12th. So, yeah, I think Spyro Stars gets a bad rep. It's not as bad as people said. It just wasn't very accessible, I didn't think. And the loot wasn't very exciting.
It's a cohesive, like, you can't just go in as a random LFG raid. You have to be on point with each other. Comms have to be perfect. Like actual performance has to be on point. There's no sitting in the corner, especially with the ball juggling and then the actual DPS version of the ball juggling and then taking down the shield and stuff. No one can kind of slack off, and I think that kind of deterred a lot of people from trying it. And
I also think that it released at probably Destiny 2's lowest point. Well, Destiny 2 had a good launch, and then it just kind of went off a cliff. And Spyro Stars came out before, it was the expansion before Forsaken, which was arguably Destiny. Yeah, it was Warmind, which was what I mean was the bit before Warmind was Destiny 2's worst period in its history. So I think that's why maybe it is seen as that. But anyway,
I'll just quickly throw in that the first time I ever ran Spyro Stars was with you guys and the Discord, and it was a fucking flawless. And I'd never run it, and you were like, "Come on in, we'll do it. We're doing it flawless for the challenges."
Because I think you might be getting confused with Crown of Sorrow.
No, I did most of my first raids with you.
The majority of Steven's raids have been like, we're not just playing it to play it. It's like, Steven, we're doing this like really intricate challenge, or we're going for flawless. Jump on in. Yeah. Steven's like, yeah, no problem, and gets it first time each time.
Yeah, he's the kind of person who like really, really underestimates himself.
100%.
He's the opposite to most gamers that think I run a 0.5 KD, I'm the best player in Call of Duty history.
MLG boy.
Whereas Steven's like, I do everything flawless. Like, you tell me to do something, I'll do it, no problem. But I'm a shit player.
But
for me, you like even Dark Souls, bruh?
But for me, that was one of the most complicated raids.
It's very it is complicated.
And it's not fun. Like, complication is good when it's fun. That wasn't fun. So
I like the boss battle on it. I do like the mechanic of going up and seeing which ship is you have to destroy. Like, it's really cool, and Steven nearly dropped his glass, by the way. But it looked like you nearly dropped it. But I think it gets an unfair bad rep, personally. But it wouldn't be a Spyro Stars discussion if someone didn't say, "Dan, kill your ads." Anyway, moving on. Eater of Worlds. Again,
I liked Eater.
I like Eater.
I think the raid layers were always going to finish bottom of any list. Really.
Yeah. Like lengthwise, it's just the boss fight or the pre-boss fight and then the boss fight. There's just no like kind of meat in it. Like, it's a jumping puzzle with a glorified fucking unlocking system, and then like the whole charging up the craniums to diffuse its cool shields mechanic. That was great. And having it on 3 platforms and having it branched off into teams, I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed it. But because it's a layer, it just...
The longest part of Eater of Worlds is trying to get the 6 rings to get the chest.
Yeah.
It's like the rest of the race, like 20 minutes, fly through it at a canter. No one's even... We've all got blindfolds on. Then for that part, it's like, we're still doing this bit.
Like, if they had to put Spyro and Eater together, I think it would have been a great raid.
That's fair.
Yeah,
could have worked.
I just find that the Spire, that boss DPS, getting 2 DPS is too long.
Yeah. Like, if they had to tone that down and put that as like a first or a second boss in Eater, and then you go up, identify the ships, and then you go into the next room, and it's like, we've got fucking Argus here, and you have to deal with the threat that's here before.
For what it's worth, I'm not saying I hate Eater of Worlds and Spyro Stars. I'm just saying I don't love them.
This is why I enjoyed my top 5 because I don't like. I love all the raids. Raiding is my favorite aspect of Destiny, and I don't want to say one is lesser than the other because at one time it was what everyone was excited for, and it was what everyone was gearing towards.
Yeah, I think the
imagine me not being negative.
Yeah, I don't want to come across as like fuck, these were crap. I hated this. I didn't think they were crap. They were fine, but anyway, moving
Destiny
on.
has a great caliber of raids, so it's just differing levels of greatness.
Yeah. Before I've one comment to make about raid layers, but we'll cover the other raid layer before we discuss it. But in 9th and 10th place, Crown of Sorrow is technically a raid layer.
No.
Oh,
it's not long enough to be a full raid. I will.
The first encounter is long enough.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Anyway, in 9th and 10th spot, we've actually got a tie of Leviathan and Crown of Sorrow. Man, the Leviathan raids are really not doing well here. But yeah, in 9th and 10th, we have a tie at a score of 9.6 out of 12. Is Leviathan and Crown of Sorrow. Do we want to do a tiebreaker on that, or do we not really care that much?
I think Crown goes way ahead of Leviathan.
Yeah, I think I personally prefer Crown.
I
actually prefer it because of the difficulty of it.
Yeah,
like that final 2 bosses in a patched together team. Oh my
hard.
Goodness, I want like. There's been times where I've literally shouted at somebody doing Crown of Sorrow's final boss, and he never raided with us again.
Like, it was on par. Not. See, I think there's different tiers of difficulty, and especially with the likes of Spire and Crown, which were mechanic heavy.
Very mechanic heavy.
I did feel that with Crown, you could kind of lean someone towards getting through it rather than having everything down to them, because communication on that is just, if it's done well, it makes it so easy, and if there's no communication, it's so hard. Whereas with Spire, it's just a shit fest, I think. But Crown, I just really enjoy both boss encounters. Really enjoyed running it. Mechanics were amazing.
Yeah.
I would disagree in that I didn't enjoy it because the only times they ever did it were flawless.
Yeah.
And that
or challenges.
The time I was we were doing a Sherpa for you through Crown was your flawless Crown. It was like we have to Sherpa him and get a flawless in one raid, and we actually managed to do it.
And it's
like even
it's such a that raid. The first part is really pressurized, like having to
I hate
kill
the first part of that raid.
Yeah, like once you get past that, I was like, okay, it's fine. Then you get to the jumping puzzle. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, now I have to jump and not drop at any stage. And then you get to the next part and you do the boss mechanics. And then it's the next part after that. And you're like, okay, so now I have to transfer buffs. I have to do this. I have to kill this. Yeah. And like when it's your first time you're trying to learn it, but you're doing it flawless, you're like, I don't have time to learn it. I just have to get told to do it.
Like once you understand those base mechanics, and I'm not sure, was this the first raid that kind of set that in motion, where your first encounter is going to lay the foundations for what you're going to carry on through? And I really enjoyed that because it did not simplify it, but it was like, right, you're dealing with a buff and a non-buff. If you're buff, you can shoot X amount of ads. If you're non-buff, you can shoot the other X amount of ads. And then that carries into the next stage, but we're going to throw in, you have to use the buff to take out a crystal. And then you're going to carry it into the final part where you do that, you can kill a certain amount of ads, do the crystal, and then shoot an ogre.
I don't think it was the first one that did that, where it lays the foundation. I think Scourge came before it, maybe?
I would argue that...
Crown?
I think so. I can't, honestly.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
The timing's a bit off for me, but yeah, it is the...
But I think that's their design philosophy, though. I don't think that's being a thing that they just done. Like if you go back to Vogue, you had the Aegis relic. It's a lot more prominent and obvious.
Yeah, and it did feel like it was more of a cohesive thing than just here's one encounter, here's another encounter, and here's another encounter. Whereas it was kind of like, here's what you learned in the first one, you're going to implement that in the second encounter, add a little spice to it, and take that to the third encounter, add more to it. I really enjoyed it for that. And for me, it was.
Sorry, go
on. It was just one of those replayability raids. Like, I didn't mind running 3 on reset every week. Like, it was enjoyable.
So I think,
and it came out in a good season as well.
It did. It came out with a better time in Destiny. So I think what they used to do, especially in D1 and at the beginning of D2, they'd give you, so in the story, in the campaign missions, or in the strike, they would give you a mechanic. Like in Crota, the swords used to spawn around the map, so it kind of taught you how to use the swords or whatever. But I think when Crown and Scourge came out, it was the first time that they actually did it within a raid, where they said, here's encounter 1, here's a mechanic, cool, you know how to do that one now. And then encounter 2 is like, here's that mechanic you just did, and we're going to add a little bit more to it. And then they do that progression. Whereas before those raids, it was something you'd get outside of the raid, and then it'd be like, oh, I know how to do this. I did this in that campaign mission 20 hours ago, and I can't remember how to do it. But yeah.
Fair enough, yeah.
One thing I will say about Crown, I enjoy teaching people how to do raids. It's something I've always done, whether I'm good, bad, or indifferent at it. I like to think I'm on the end of the spectrum towards good. But I will say that
chat would disagree highly.
I would say that Crown of Sorrow is the one raid I hate. I hate teaching people how to do it because there's so my kind of methodology of teaching a raid is to break down encounters into their finer parts and say, this is what you're doing, this is what you're doing. But with Crown, especially on the final boss and the penultimate boss, there's just it's such an overload of information that it's like there's no way I can break this down and give you it efficiently, rather than just say, just do what I tell you to do, it'll be fine.
I think that's what we resorted to in the end. I think you teamed me up with you, and you said, right, you just do whatever I tell you and do it quickly.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah, it's like, just if I tell you need to be here, just be here.
Which is why I like the system that they implement, that you take from each stage or each encounter to the next one. So then it gives someone a little bit more confidence. To be like, if someone says crystal, you know that you have to shoot it if you're buff and debuff, that kind of way.
And blessing, non-blessing, you need to transfer that and so on. Yeah.
No, I don't
DPS
know.
I really enjoyed as well.
Yeah, the DPS was good. It was a good mechanic with the hands and then the shoot with the head. I don't know if I like that mechanic or not, where they build on it from each encounter. Like, I don't actually know if I like it or if I don't like it. Because if I think
the more it gets done, it's kind of one of those, it's coming then, and it's kind of like, it's not going to be anything new.
It's something that I've actually begun to, if I'm teaching someone how to do a raid for the first time, it's actually something that I say at the beginning of the explanation. So the way Destiny is with raids, they give you a mechanic and then they build on it. So like Deepstone Crypt, it's like, in this one we've got the red and we've got the yellow, and later on we're going to have the blue. So I don't know. I think with Deepstone Crypt especially, and we'll get to that when we're talking about it, in that people complained it was too easy, and I feel like the building on top of a mechanic system may be contributing to that. However, with with Deepstone Crypt, the ads just don't shoot you, so that's definitely the issue. Like, if you've ever tried to wipe on the first encounter on Deepstone Crypt, it's a nightmare, because the ads just don't shoot you. But anyway, we're not talking about Deepstone Crypt. Leviathan. Not yet, anyway. So Crown of Sorrow, the best of the raid layers, in my opinion, gets a bad rep because it was hard, mechanic heavy. Leviathan, which we actually should have spoke about them in the reverse. I know you don't like Leviathan, Dill.
It's one of those things I can't put my finger on. I think it was just... I don't even know. I think it was because it was the first raid I had to properly LFG, and
because we all left you for PC.
You all jumped on PC, and it was at that time where it's the meme post where must have a fucking flawless clear emblem with 10 Galahorns and give me all your legendary shards, and have a 1.5 KD in Crucible. But it to me, every time I played it was just a bit of a toxic environment.
Yeah.
So it turned me off doing it.
I think the raid space for Leviathan was far more impressive than the raid itself, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the Leviathan ship, the underbelly, all the different pathways, the rooms, that was incredibly made. But the actual like
to me, it's just not memorable.
Yeah, it's not like if I think about like the dog's cool encounter, the gauntlet, cool encounter, Callus boss fight, great encounter with the two different rooms.
Yeah,
but it just, I think they tried something really different with Leviathan, and obviously they haven't done it again. So it kind of shows you the reception that it got. But
which is strange because when you break it down individually, like you said, with each encounter, it's fine. Like there's nothing that you could kind of put your finger on to say why it was bad.
I don't even think necessarily it was bad. I just think that the four we've spoken about, maybe with Crown is probably thrown in there unfairly, but I don't even think it's that they're bad. It's that the rest of the ones we're gonna talk about from here on out, the top 8 are all really high quality, which is why maybe we're looking on these ones unfondly, just because the rest of them are so goddamn fucking good.
Well, what I find with Leviathan is it comes back to the kind of like the power creep or lack thereof in Destiny, and that's one of the things that I find incredibly frustrating at times, is that we are god slayers, we are getting more powerful every season, yet a Vandal or a Dreg in the starting area can still butcher me for whatever reason.
They've got stages
and and in Leviathan, I find that raid, back when it came out first to when it is here now, takes essentially the same amount of time. Now, obviously, when you know the encounter, if you're going in blind, it'll take forever. But when you know the encounter, there's no difference back when it released to when it is now. Whereas with Crown and Spire and so on, like, you can blast through a lot of the stuff because they're just not long encounters. And if you're good and coordinated and powerful, you can get through them. Leviathan just stops that completely. And the Leviathan raid is one of the longest, and for no good reason.
It's not long because of encounters. Yeah, it's not long because of the encounters. It's long because of the underbelly system.
Yeah, but I do find that some of the encounters, like the Gauntlet, like, it's good, but there are kind of unnecessary stops within what you can do, and that's just the inherent design of it. And because of that, it doesn't matter how powerful you are, you'll never complete that quicker.
Yeah,
you can only get
that's true. Actually, even the bathers, you're doing it because you have to lower the chains unless you one phase the canisters. It's just you're right.
You have to go through the same cycle.
There's a time base. I think what makes it unmemorable is there's only one boss fight. Like when you think of Destiny raids, if you think of Destiny raids, you think of the boss fights.
Yeah.
Like you never say, "Oh yeah, that was a cool aside from one that I can think of off the top of my head, you never say, "Oh, that encounter, it was with Leviathan, it's one boss fight and 3 encounters, 4 if you include Castellum. Whereas if you look at another raid, you'll have encounter, boss, encounter, boss, encounter, main boss, or mini boss, main boss. Whereas Leviathan, it's just encounter, boss. So I think that's what maybe makes it a bit less memorable.
And I think that's something that they lost on going from D1 to D2. Like look at King's Fall, for example. You have War Priest. That's the first encounter, isn't it? It's the first boss. Sorry.
Yeah.
First boss.
War Priest,
War Priest, Golgoroth, the sister, and then you have the big man himself.
Yeah. The king himself.
There's 4 massive encounters, like huge encounters as well. Not just you do these 3 mechanics and it'll unlock the next room.
And also in King's Fall, you had the beginning to open the portal encounter, and then you had the totems encounter.
Totems as well, yeah.
like, and then you had the War Priest.
Save this for King Fall.
No, I will.
Yeah.
But like, you had encounters in between the bosses
It was
as well.
meaty as fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's where it maybe got lost. Leviathan, amazing play. The raid space is incredible. It's a city on a fucking spaceship. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But the actual like shooting canisters isn't exciting.
I think as well, where it loses a little bit of points, and I could be misremembering this, is that it doesn't tie in directly with the story. Like, there isn't a strong connection to what's happened in the story to why
Yeah,
you're
it
raiding
was.
on the Leviathan.
You're actually correct. The story linked to Leviathan was on a Nessa's adventure. There was a
Yeah.
voice
Or
line
the collector's edition of Destiny 2,
for that.
which is the only reason I knew who the fuck Callus was because I read that book that came with the collector's edition. And that annoys me because I'm an advocate for campaigns, have your culminating story, and then follow that into the raid.
Mhm.
There's your raid boss, you know?
Yeah.
It gives it more depth and, to me, more excitability to... You've started this journey. Here's your big grand firework finale.
End it.
Yeah,
I
basically.
will say about Leviathan, as a Titan anyway, the gear set was gorgeous. It was a lovely gear type. The armor set for Titan was fabulous, and the loot, the guns. There was a couple of nice gems in there.
Midnight Coup for
we
the next
all
5
used
years.
Midnight. Yeah, we all used Midnight Coup for the first couple of years. It's a piece of
Ghost
trash
Primus.
now. Ghost Primus was decent, but the other three didn't have great gear sets or loot sets. Especially maybe for other characters, but as a Titan, you looked fat.
Yeah, that was the whole Destiny 2 year 1 through 2 fucking aesthetic for Titans.
Chunky boys.
Anyway,
yeah. Go on.
We'll move on to the better ones. So the three we did were all high scoring, whereas the rest of them now are all 6 or better. So they're all... We think highly of these.
We're coming in the top 5!
We all gave the rest of these probably a 5 or a 6 out of 12. So next up on the list is, by a hair, lost out to its next closest competitor, is Scourge of the Past. Yeah. Another raid lair, really. It's long enough, but I could have done.
Get out of here with your raid lairs.
Now, this is the last one, so... Jeff, Scourge, I think Scourge... I liked Scourge because it was Fallen, and it was the first actual Fallen raid we had.
Oh, we got,
so, which was nice. And again, it did the whole, here's your map, here's the mechanic, and we're going to build on that as we move through it.
Scourge for me is that sweet point where Leviathan didn't allow your power creep to help you get through the raid quicker. Scourge is the opposite. If you are more powerful than Scourge, we ran that so much in the summer, and
it was 20-minute runs.
I love it because of how quick it is and just how powerful you feel to get through that. And you get to this giant mech and you bring him out to the front. You're like, Dale, bring him out there, and you wail on him. And if you get it right, you'll one phase him.
Yeah,
most of the time you go 2 phase, but you feel so good that you're dominating this boss and you're doing it so quickly, and it's just that feeling of you are getting more powerful as you do this. And for me, Scourge is where they got that right, where as you got stronger, that raid got easier.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily you were so powerful it was too easy. It was you can be really optimized and one phase this so easily, or you can be not optimized, still be powerful, light-wise, have enough damage output, and still only 2 phase it. It wasn't gatekeeping for people who didn't raid constantly or do their dungeons or do their leveling up.
No, it was a very approachable raid.
Yeah,
it was approachable, and it had, while I don't think it had anything. Oh, it had the shotgun was people wanted it. There's a couple of guns, but it had the best raid exotic we've ever. Did
it have any other thing? I wonder. Yeah,
it had one thing that the Sparrow that everyone's using because it's bugged, but it had one. It had the best raid exotic we've had Like just
Anarchy.
Anarchy breaks any fucking encounter in the game because you just
let's not bring up Anarchy.
shoot them and hide behind the wall, and the boss is dead. But Anarchy's fantastic, which is why we ended up doing so many. I think
I have my little Anarchy.
One of those is mine, if not 12 of them.
My little Anarchy. There.
Hey, who was it that was it? Dill that had it.
Stole all my
And you
Anarchies.
wanted it.
Steven, do you want to do a raid? Yeah, cool. Dill gets Anarchy. Steven, next week, do you want to do a raid? Yeah, cool. Dill gets Anarchy. Steven, fuck off.
Like, I think it had the first Sparrow encounter in a raid where we were racing away from the
Giant servitor.
the giant
that was
flame
cool.
boy servitor.
Yeah.
Cool encounter. It was cool the first time you did it, and then it was like, can we just get through this, please? Thanks.
Can somebody please hit the fucking buttons?
Yeah. And then, like, what was the second? No, the second last was where you send someone down below and you get the tanks. Cool encounter, and then the mech comes out. I think the best thing about Scourge was that it's set up beyond light. Basically, it was a story link in. Aramis was who sent she sent the Fallen to raid the Black Armory, which is why we are where we're at now.
Ah, okay. I didn't know that. There you go.
Yeah.
She wanted.
It'd be amazing if they told us in the story and the game, and not just like a lore book that you can.
It was like
It was front and center. Yeah, it was big.
Yeah, Edith tells you, I think. Yeah.
I'm just a spa.
You know, Aramis sent.
Because it was a raid layer, I didn't take it all in.
Yeah, here we are with the raid layer.
So I don't think it's actually classed as a raid layer, but I think they did say, look, it's going to be a bit shorter.
It was your summer raid rather than your big meaty kind of September.
And you know what? I actually I've got like an asterisk beside quite a few of these, in that, and Scourge was one of them, as was the other ones we're going to get to, but they're ones that if they had one extra encounter, they would have been like, they're great, they're fantastic, but one extra encounter would have made a lot of these.
Made a massive difference.
Massive difference. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for
all in all, I really enjoyed Scourge. It was one of those.
Scourge.
If you needed to run it multiple times, it's not like, do you want to change out a character to do the boss? It was like, fuck it, we might as well do it again because it was so quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up after Scourge, in 7th place, is our first Destiny 1 raid. Is Crota's End. So Crota's End comes in at 7th. I think it's 7th anyway. Yeah, 7th. So Crota's End, the shortest of the Destiny raids. I think the Crota's End we got in year 3 is far better than the Crota's End we got at launch. Steven, what are you looking at?
You said the first raid we got.
Yeah.
I'm really confused because the first raid we got was Vogue.
The first Destiny 1 raid on our countdown list, you idiots.
Oh, you said the first one we got.
No, the first one we voted onto the list.
That makes way more sense.
I'm really confused.
So, all the raids we've had so far have been
This is the first Destiny
raids.
1. Yeah,
this is the first Destiny 1 on our list. So it's the lowest ranked Destiny 1.
It's not as if you had 12 to choose from in Destiny 1. It was like 3.
Yeah. Anyway, the Crota's End that we ended up with in year 3 was far better than the year 1 version, because you couldn't just cheese the whole thing and do it solo.
I disagree. I love the cheese. I love
the cheese. No, I'd love to do it solo. I love cheesing it. It meant I could get the Crota by myself. Get Dylan in when he finished work. Dill shoot Galahorn at Crota for me, and that was my 3 raids done for the week.
My first memory of Crota was literally Kev saying, "Do you want to do this? It's like a strike." Yeah, cool. And I just jumped in, stood there, shot my weapon at the boss, and that was it.
And got his loot.
Yeah, it's the first time I actually felt like I was useful in Destiny, because I was the only Titan that could get the jump in the lanterns, and then I could get my way around.
I actually forgot about that bit. Yeah,
and then it was great because I had two friends who like hadn't got any guys that they play with or anything, and I was like, "Look, I'll get you through Crota. Like, I essentially brought them through Crota. I did the whole thing for them and got them to the end and got their loot." And I was like, holy shit, I am good at this game. And then they released everything else, and I was like, oh no, I'm average again.
I've made money off Crota. Thanks, Crota.
Did you?
I got people Flawless Raider.
No way.
I got like 20 people to Flawless Raider before they got rid of the fucking glitches. It was great.
Actually, here's a question while we're on Flawless Raider. What was your Flawless Raider on? Vogue or Crota?
Vogue.
Yeah, Vogue. Dill? Did you get Flawless Raider?
I wasn't a big D1 Raider, so I can't even remember.
He got it on Crota.
There we go.
Dill. I could be wrong. I think it was Dill. But Dill's Flawless Raider, I'm pretty sure, was me on 2 consoles at one time. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was me on 2 consoles, and I would get myself into position, make myself Hunter Invis, fire the rock Gallowhorn from Dill, throw, and then jump up and sword it, and that's how I got Dill's Flawless Raider. I'm pretty sure. Or else, no, I'm wrong, actually. It was me on 2 consoles, but I had Foxy with me. So I would fire one Gallowhorn, Foxy would fire the other one, and then I'd do the sword stuff. I think Crota was great. Gave you that powerful, I'm a god killer feeling if you were the sword bearer.
Yes.
So if you had someone who was good at using sword, it was great. But if you had a team where the guy was like, I'm sword bearer, I'm gonna do, and didn't know the timings, it was painful. And I think that was where Crota's end for me. It doesn't fall down because it was short. It falls down because it gave one person that hero complex, and the other 5 people were to sit in the corner and clear ads and shoot the boss for me.
Crota was also the first one though where you had like, was it the secret mission for?
Yeah.
Was there a secret mission in Crota?
I think so.
So was that where you dropped the blue
Black Spindle?
Or
Black Hammer came from Crota. Black Spindle came out during Taken King, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I might be thinking of that then, but like, yeah.
There was a mission. There was a mission later on where you had to go back into Crota's end for basically to Gatecrash's funeral. No wonder they hate us. We're fucking assholes. I think like the same as with Scourge set up Beyond Light, Crota's End set up the Taken King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a glorified strike when it first came out. It's not now because that bridge encounter is hilarious where everyone has to have swords at the end and kill all the knights. But yeah, it was fine.
If it wasn't for it being a buggy mess at the very start,
pull out your Ethernet cable.
Yeah.
Most people would have fonder memories of it, but I have very fond memories of it. I know it was a good raid.
I think the funniest part of Crota for me, though, is that so many people cheesed it at the beginning that when they fixed the cheese, nobody could do it. Yeah, it'd be like if they fixed Last Wish now, where you can't kill Riven the way we do. Like, nobody would be able to do Riven.
Yeah.
Because they've never done it. And it was the same with Crota. Everyone's kind of like, oh shit, you mean we have to do something now? Oh no.
How do we build a bridge?
I think it was just low on my list because I was the definition of a casual in D1, and I didn't take it seriously, especially raiding and stuff like that. So while I enjoy it as a whole, it just didn't kind of. Not that it was bad because I love the story behind it and everything. It's just I didn't play it enough to quantify it.
One thing that I'm really actually funnily thankful of Crota for. On release day, we did it with our original raid team, and it didn't go very well because 4 of us were taking it seriously, and 2 of us were taking the piss and didn't really care and were just goofing off the whole time. So the other 4 that were taking it seriously got a bit pissed off. And then that original raid team kind of fell apart after that. So because of that, it forced me to go onto LFGs, to go into the forums and try meet new people to do raids with. And then obviously Trials came out and I had to do that even more so. But Crota was the first one. It's kind of like, you want to do this shit? You're going to need friends, bud. So I met a lot of people because of that. So but I didn't get Black Hammer until the week before Taken King. So,
oh my god, that's awful.
I did it every week. 3 normals, 3 hards every week, and the week before Taken King. Anyway, moving on. Back to Destiny 2 raids. In number 6, I think, losing count, is Garden of Salvation.
I love Garden. It's
Yeah, you voted Garden quite high, actually.
yeah.
You voted Garden as your second. Your second favorite. So we're going to sit here.
Represent, boy!
And Dill's going to talk about how much he loves Garden of Salvation. And then we'll disagree with everything he says.
No, like Garden came out at a really, really positive time in Destiny. Shadowkeep, wasn't it?
Shadowkeep, yeah.
Like I think that was when I was at my peak for playing hours and just.
That was when you were doing Checklist Simulator.
That was when I
were
literally was doing seals galore. I was doing not the triumphs, just anything and everything each week. Like my playtime was through the roof. I appreciated every story that was explained. I was actively logging on to do stupid bounties and stuff like that, and then the raid came along, and for me, I just really loved every encounter. Like I know people shit on, I would say I can never remember the name of the fucking the harpy. Yeah, Sanctified. I love that encounter, actually. And it really was one of those raids where it didn't give you the hero complex, but
that's the boss.
If because it was broken up into the whether you're on eyes or whether you're on moats, if you knew what to do on each of them, like I always done eyes, and it just gave you that one kind of like, yeah, you've played your part. Now you can go to the next stage, that kind of way. Yeah, I love Garden. I love Vex raids.
Same. I really enjoy Vex raids.
I think the general ads are nice to fight, and then the minor or the majors, they're really good. Like Minotaurs, you have your Harpies, you have your Hydras. Like there's a really good balance between them all. That doesn't just say, oh, we're getting the same kind of knights or something like that coming in. Yeah, like every encounter, whether it was unlocking the first door, I love that mechanic, the chaining mechanic. And like that, if you were the one that was pushing on into the next room, you felt like you were kind of paving the way for the rest of the team. Everyone had a part to play. There was no like just sit here, do that. Next phase where you're unlocking each quadrant of the baseball field or the diamond, what we called it. Yeah, no, I just it was the first raid that I think I just replayed it constantly, and it was done in teams and LFGs. It was just I really enjoyed it, and it was the first raid that I got my flawless on myself, like, and done the first raid seal for as well. So I think it just, with all that kind of put together, it was just, it had to be up there for me. Just as an experience
Stephen,
in a whole.
Both me and you picked it as number 8.
I knew it was quite low down on mine, yeah.
And it was my number 2. Yeah.
Number 2. I like Garden. Don't know if you have anything to say, Stephen, before I go into a spiel about it.
I agree with some points. Like, I don't know if I like the tether mechanic. I think I don't know what it is about it. I just don't like that. Let's just stand stationary and lock the door. I do really like Vex raids. So when you said that, I was like, yes, I completely agree. They are the best raids. But there's something, I don't know. There's something about Garden that just doesn't get to me. And what I remember from Garden is, because I did Garden with the two of you and the other lads, it's the first raid where the person who explained things to me was Dill, not Kev this time. Because Dill knew what to do, where to do, and it was clear you were passionate about it, whereas for Kev it's always like you just explain it.
It's pragmatic, but you actually, as opposed to...
but Dill just understood it in a way that was like, that made sense to you and how you enjoyed it. And then I always got teamed up with you when we were getting when we had to go to Team like, 1 different bases. Yeah, so like it was great. I got this hike along and do it a bit, and you could just see you knew what to do and how to do it. It's like, this is great. but it just didn't really do anything for me.
I wonder, is that why I have it lower on my list? Because I always have to do platform building, which is fucking boring. But if you have two people who will just do it, get it done, mind their own business, like, it just makes that counter less manic,
more fluid,
less vex fluid. But it's a boring fucking job.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That was another part that I loved. It was you were doing the encounter, but you still had to defend. So there was a part where you send the team over to get the moats and to bring them back, and then you banked them, but you couldn't just leave it. It wasn't just you do it and that's done. It was the defending part of it as well was really cool. So to me, I know I didn't do a lot of plate building, but there was a constant something to do.
So I've a couple of points to make on Garden, and the first one I'll say is about what you're talking about, the plate and the defending and sending people across. One thing that Garden does very, very well that a lot of raids didn't do is that you might be in your different groups of 2 people or 3 people, but you're still working together as a whole.
Yeah.
And that teamwork throughout that whole thing, if someone dies, you can still pull it together and get through it, but you're still working as a cohesive unit to get something done. And because of that, it was prime for trolling capabilities. And it looking at the rest of the raids, none of the other raids provide so many chances to troll your teammates the way Garden did. And I got to a point with Garden where I would just try fuck it up on other people. So people would be trying to get tethers done. You shoot the tether off so they can't get it. Or
that was so annoying.
Yeah,
that's topping my pet peeve.
or those times where like me and Kraut would be rebuilding platforms and we just say nothing and both of us would just go through one of the open portals and just do the moats, and people are like, wait, what's going on? And then there was remember that one raid where I can't remember what one we were doing it, but half the people ended up through one of the portals on the final boss damage phase because I saw a portal and jumped through it. And then Kraut jumped through after me, and then I think Cole and Chaotic jumped through as well. And we just left Dan there shooting the boss nearly all by himself. And he was like, wait, what the fuck's going on? So yeah, in support of Garden, it was good for trolling your raid team. There's just so many different ways to do it in that raid. And one thing highly complimentary of it, it's a beautiful raid. Like, if I'm looking down the list at the rest of the ones we've gone through so far, Crota, Scourge, Leviathan, Crown, Eater, Spire, none of them get close to how good Garden of Salvation
I think
looks.
Because it was outside as well.
It was the Black Garden. It was outside. It's very green. You've got all the flora and that, and you've got the that hill up to the final boss. So after you've done the harpy and you've done the jumping puzzle over the Vex Milk, and then you're working your way up that little hill before the Sanctified Mind boss fight. That's one of the most beautiful spaces in the game. It's like sparkly and green. It's a beautiful raid. And one thing that it achieves as well that some of the other ones we're going to talk about did, but the ones below didn't. The feeling of scale in Garden of Salvation. Like, yeah, it's not the longest raid, but the play space feels infinitely big when you're going through it. And it's the typical Destiny. Oh, look, it's something pretty, but we can't touch it.
Yeah.
It's the parts where you look out behind you after an encounter and you see the maze in the Black Garden. And I know I look at it and go, like, I think I can figure out where I came from. Even though you can't, you still look at it and go, I think that's how you get back to where we were. And it's just, Venus is such a beautiful place. I really wish we...
Yeah, I hope if they're bringing anything else out of the content vault, I hope it's Venus.
Like,
one of my favorite things.
Venus to me is like the original alien planet in Destiny. Like, it's the one that kind of...
Because it was the first one.
Yeah.
It was the first alien planet we went to.
And it's the same with Vex. It's just, to me, it's I don't know if it's a... you had to be there thing, but at the beginning it was the very like, this is our alien race that we're fighting against.
in
I know Hive and
1997.
everything in 1997. Yeah, but yeah, I love everything about that raid. Like even the jumping puzzles were
The jumpers were great crack. Good
like
fun.
the interactive lily
Lots of dick
pads or
wells.
whatever they were.
Lots of dick wells.
I mixed feelings with those.
But you know, one thing, like, again, Garden of Salvation did the whole here's your mechanic and build on top of it, and I actually agree with Stephen. Partially agree with Stephen. I didn't mind the tether mechanic as a mechanic, but I didn't enjoy that we had to do it on every encounter. So you had it at the very beginning, opening the door, and that when you're chasing the harpy, you're doing it. And then in the baseball diamond, you're also tethering people all the time. On the boss, you're always tethering, and then on the final boss again. So you do it the whole way through, and I just feel like that takes away from it a little bit because it got better. Oh yeah, more tethering. But what I love about Vex raids is teleporting, so going through a portal to teleport.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to get into it yet because it's obviously higher up on the list, but it was in Vault of Glass. We had Atheon teleports you to Mars or to Venus in the future or the past, but on Garden of Salvation, it's kind of the inverse of that, in that we go through a portal. Now, you don't go as far as Venus or Mars, you go to the top right or the top left of the raid, but it just felt like the inverse of Atheon.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong on that, and that's not something that and some Bungie developer, if they ever do see this, will be like, that's exactly what I meant.
Or no, he's an idiot. That's not what we meant.
No, he's an idiot. Who's that guy? Get him off YouTube. Anyway, Garden, beautiful. I like Garden. I don't have a problem with Garden. We just did it so many times and carried so many people through it that it leaves a bit of a sour taste for me at this stage.
It was the first one as well that I think formed our group.
It did.
As well.
It did.
So that was the real, like, holy shit, we have a raid team.
Yeah.
Feeling for me as well.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And speaking of raid team, and you mentioned flawless raid, Dill, a funny moment I remember while doing Garden, we were trying to do a flawless raid, and someone went, haha, Kev, watch this! And the next two words I heard were Guardian down. They tried to do a Warlock fly jump with Spinny Sword, and they yeeted themselves right into a wall and killed themselves in the middle of a flawless run. Thanks for that, sorry in advance. He was definitely sorry in advance that time. Anyway, moving on to our top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're at our top 5.
All right, I'm awake now. I'm here.
And already I feel like we've got a little bit of controversy, including the next one, because of how easy it was, and it was a handout. And
DSC
Deepstone Crypt is coming in at number 5. For clarity, the way we voted that was 4, 5, and 5. So we all have very good memories of it. And maybe that's because it's the most new and the nice.
Yeah.
It's fresher in our memories, and maybe if we revisited this in a year's time, it'd be down there with Crown of Sorrow. But like Deepstone Crypt, to preface it, the ads don't do enough damage. It is quite easy. Now, okay, I'll backtrack it a little bit. Day 1 experience Deepstone Crypt was incredible. Day after 1, the ads don't do near enough damage, and it's quite easy. But as a whole, I think it's parts of it are way more beautiful than even Garden of Salvation. We will talk about that encounter in a minute. But I liked it because it was in space. It was a fallen raid, which again, we haven't had many of. And my only real problem with it, well, it's 2, but they're kind of the same problem, is that it needed 1 extra encounter, I felt, to really cement it as a fantastic raid. And I kind of wish Tanix wasn't the final raid boss.
Yeah.
I think that was the most disappointing thing for me as well.
Or if he was the final boss, that there was something before him.
Yeah.
And also, it's kind of like, it's never really been explained how he became the final boss. It's like, yay, spaceship craft. Hey, I've got a big shank, look at me! But yeah.
Yeah, go on,
Go on,
Stephen.
Dylan.
No, go.
No, Stephen, go.
I do think, like, Deepstone Crypt has some really nice encounters, like the Atrix encounter is really cool, getting to go up into space, and it's unfortunate that we have a way to do it now where it's just a group goes up and then two people go up. And
you weren't there the other night. We won Florida the other night.
But that's what I mean. So like you miss out on all those really kind of like that part of the raid is really well done. And then going from the nuclear detonation all the way back down into like it's probably the first raid where they've done story content within the raid really well. This is probably the best in-raid content.
The in-raid story content was better than the actual story content.
Yeah. And then it opened up way more story content afterwards.
And has continued to do so.
The problem was, where the fuck did Tanix come from and why? Like, why would you bring back him? We've already killed him twice. Why bring back someone we've killed twice for a third time?
Without any explanation.
Yeah, like, if he's your most powerful, you're fucked. There's no wonder you're called a Fallen. You keep bringing that fucker back. Bring back Aramis.
And that was one thing that... Like, Aramis was hyped up for this campaign, and then we unlock Stasis and kill her. And
we don't kill her.
No, but it leaves it open to if that was the raid boss, that would have been a really nice extension to the story. If she was like a mecha, or if she was the top half of the shank.
I thought they were going to bring her back for the raid.
In Edge magazine, before Beyond Light came out, there was a photo of Aramis with
like a souped up kind of gear set.
What do you call
exoskeleton?
There was an exified picture of Aramis. So I think this was just the introduction to Aramis. I think we are going to see more of Aramis some point in the future.
But this is another issue I have with the way Destiny explains stories now. It's that came out in what, December? November
21st, around that date. Yeah.
We could see mecha fucking Aramis in December 2022. Like, there's just they don't capitalize on the momentum of that singular story. It's like, how can we space this out over a period of time? Throw in other stories. Like, at the moment we're fighting Cabal, so it to me that couldn't be any further away from an ice planet, you know, story wise.
It's kind of weird at the moment. We're fighting Cabal and also working with Cabal at the same time against Scorn, Darkness. But it's like, it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird at the moment, but I don't know if you've been following the Glycon story each week. Bife has been putting out videos, and it's getting big. Basically, it's getting big.
I'm not going to talk about that because it's just how I don't like to be told a story. It's very few and far between. Like,
we talked about this before, Dale. Like, and we're in agreement. It's the worst way to tell a story in a week by week.
It loses my interest very quickly.
Yeah. But what was your opinions then on Deepstone Crypt?
I really liked Deepstone, and I think it's mainly because of what Kev said as well. It's the latest raid. Everyone's playing it a lot, but I've fallen off it over the last month or so because
I wish I had.
It's the replayability was there at the start, but then it's kind of like, as like you said, Stephen, each encounter gets easier. You're taken away from the mechanics. It's just like, what's the point in doing it?
Yeah, and it's really I'm at the stage with that now where I'm just trying to find ways to troll people.
Yeah.
It's funny that the two of you ranked it at, I assume, 4 and 5. I think I was
you had it at 4, Stephen.
Or maybe I did.
You had it at 4. We both had it at 5.
Considering this was both of your first day 1 raids, like,
and I think that's why it was higher.
It wasn't my first day 1 raid. It was my second.
Wasn't that your first day 1 clear? No.
My second.
Oh, okay. But still, even for Dill, like it's still, I would say 5 is actually quite low considering that map for Jeeps.
But that just goes to show how good the other ones were.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think the other 4 that are still to come, like
I think with them they stood the age test. Like you would be excited to jump in and run it now. I think personally, if every raid was power leveled and gave you pinnacle drops like the current one does, you'd have a lot more diversity in what people want to play each week on reset.
Yeah.
I think,
you know,
I don't mean this as disrespectful, but I think Deepstone Crypt, for me anyway, with maybe Garden and Crota, it's the best of the rest. But the other 4 that we're gonna chat about are just like, they are. You could talk to 20 different people, and it's always gonna be one of those 4 as their favorite, unless you've got some hipster who, for some reason, loves Spyro Stars. But yeah, like Deepstone Crypt, like I think with the space jumping puzzle and the Deepstone Lullaby, I think without that encounter, it'd be a lot lower. I just think that was the most perfectly placed encounter in any raid. Like Vault of Glass, Luke Smith talks about the Gorgon maze after you've gone through the battle with the Templar, and how it was that you had that big jump, the drop, and how it was that kind of moment where people started chatting and started talking and the tension left. Day 1, we were on Atrax for, was it like 4 hours or something? And tensions were high. It was tough. We got it done, and we had that moment of, yeah, we did it! And then we stepped out into space for the first time and heard Deepstone Crypt. And it was just the most peaceful. No one spoke the whole time. It was just like, this is wonderful. This is just the most amazingly placed raid encounter ever. Yeah, and then the music, obviously, it's famous at this stage. Everyone loves the Deepstone Lullaby. It's a lovely piece of music. But look, I've no problems with Deepstone Crypt. I think it's a fantastic raid.
No,
I think it's too easy. No doubt about it. It is too easy. It is too far, the curve you mentioned, Stephen, of day 1. Then it gets easier over time. This was hard day 1, unless you glitched in and knew all the encounters and cheated, not looking at anybody. But day 2, day 3 onwards, the second time you did this raid, it was a piece of piss.
Yeah,
especially if you did play it day 1 and with our contest modifier on it.
Once contest was
you couldn't
off,
peek. Like in that first Atrax encounter, when you went up to space and or even down below, when those servitors came out with those group of ads, you just, if you were in the open, you were dead.
We all put on Wither Horde for that encounter because we couldn't peek on the servitor and the Shanks. Jeez. We all put on Wither Horde to deal with the fucking servitors.
Yeah.
However, as a callback, I'm in space was the best call out ever. And then everyone was like, wait, what? What do you mean you're in space? I'm just in space! It was great. Right, we move on to our top 4, I think. I think like Deepstone Crypt, we could continue talking about it, but we'll move on.
Nah.
I'm so disappointed that number 4 is what number 4 is.
I know what number 4 is. If you're saying that.
It's my favorite Destiny 1 raid. I'm pretty sure I had it as my favorite Destiny 1 raid. I did. But because this guy beside me put it at number 8 for some reason, it gets shipped down to number 4. Rat of the Machine.
8?
Yeah.
Once again, it falls into the I didn't raid a lot in D1, so
yeah, I don't think he did it a whole lot. I'm actually gonna look it up.
I was that person that was right. You can jump in and just shoot. You know, like
shoot the wall.
From having both experiences as someone who raids a lot now and someone who didn't in D1 and who explains stuff now and then had to have everything explained to them in D1, there's a very big contrast in what you take away from the raid. And don't get me wrong, loot was amazing. The weapons were amazing. The whole Outbreak Prime locked into it, that was amazing. But it was just I never felt like I had a presence in the raid. It was real. I didn't have. Yeah, I was that stand there, do this when I tell you to do it.
You did Rat the Machine 13 times.
There you go.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure your lowest raid in Destiny 2 is 13.
That's pretty Spire.
Yeah. Crota's End, you had 2 flawlesses, by the way. No, whoa, you didn't get loads of flawlesses. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You had 7 Crota's End flawlesses. And the first one, me, you, and Foxy.
But like that, it doesn't take away from. I know, Kev, you love Rat the Machine, and I think the majority of the community loved Rat the Machine. And when I was thinking about it, I did love it, but I'm not just putting it down to the factor of it was great. End of. It's the whole. It didn't have replayability for me. I was that one person who was looking all LFGs because I was too low leveled, and then I felt underpowered in it, and I felt like I didn't have a place in it as an experience rather than the raid itself.
Yeah, right there, Stephen.
How many clears did Dill get?
13.
Guess how many I have?
13.
14.
3.
3.
What?
I apparently only have 3 clears.
Jesus.
In Rat the Machine. And I definitely know I have more than that.
That's something we actually should have looked at going into this. I've completed Deepstone Crypt 81 times. It's my highest rated in Destiny 2.
I think Garden is mine.
But I'll get on to Rat the Machine now in a sec. I had 36 clears of Rat the Machine. I had 164 clears of Crota's End.
Jesus.
Anyway,
164, $10 each time.
Had to pay for this PC somehow. Anyway, Rat the Machine. Like, I actually just remembered the jumping puzzle on Rat the Machine. I completely forgot about it. Where you drop down. It's amazing. But anyway,
does it?
Like, I think we spoke about Crown of Sorrows and Spire of Stars and Leviathan are very mechanic heavy raids, and then you've got other stuff like Crota's End isn't as mechanic heavy. There's a lot more moving around. Deepstone Crypt, it's mechanic heavy, but no problem, Dill. But it's a lot of just moving around. I felt like Rat the Machine found that perfect balance between mechanics and shooty looty. Also, the loot was fantastic in Rat the Machine. But anyway, like Vosik, I think Vosik was the first one where the balls come out and you throw the balls at him, and then he runs away into his next room with the TV monitors and the ball, and it builds on that ball throwing mechanic to get his shields down, and then you also add on the save yourself TVs. Rooms, the TVs, and and that was great. And then you had the most hectic fucking raid encounter in Destiny 1, the Death Zamboni. The siege engine, where you're fucking... And the reason it was so hectic was because your PlayStation or Xbox dropped to about 12 frames per second. It was like playing fucking Cyberpunk on a PS4 base model. But that encounter was brilliant. And then you had... What was the boss's name? I keep going back to Atrax, and it's not that.
No, it's Astalker. It's like Atrax, but it's not.
Yeah, it's close, and that's why I'm getting confused. Axis, the Archon Prime. Axis.
That's it. Yeah.
Like Axis, especially on, was it challenge mode or hard mode? The challenge mode. There was no hard. Oh, there was a hard mode, but the challenge mode of Axis, where people got the charges, and if you weren't the person slamming on the boss, you had to basically get rid of your charge in the vents before the boss was slammed. Like, that challenge mode boss fight is the most perfect boss fight I think they've done in Destiny. Where he's teleporting around the room, and then at the last second, someone has to turn and run and slam him, and the other two defuse, and that was amazing. And then obviously the servitor phase before that with the cannons where you had to call void on right or solar on right. The people were jumping across the map trying to, and the boss was shooting at you the whole time. It was a nightmare, but it was
hectic. Yeah.
But it goes back again to Garden and Deepstone Crib looking phenomenal. Rat in a Machine, of all the raids, it's the aesthetic I like the most in any of the raids we have. It's that Siva technology aesthetic is just beautiful. Like, I remember the first time you saw the pyramid open up, or where you come out of the the Outbreak Prime pyramid cube where it opens up, but the steps down to Axe's boss fight after that, where it's the big pyramid and there's the red and black. It's like Steven's gamer chair. But the first time I walked it, I was just like, it takes your breath away. And then also we had the the Outbreak Prime puzzle that came from that raid. Like, that still blows my mind. That
all the mats in it and stuff.
The mats,
like it was,
we had one tangle in chat fucking translating binary.
Da Vinci Code shit.
It was great. But the room, that server room where you had the light shining across it and you could see the shadows splashing up on the wall. Yeah, it was... What a raid. What a raid. Yeah, and yes, I do in fact prefer it to Vault of Glass. Fight me.
Like, I think if it was released on Destiny 2 as it is now, I'd love the shit out of it.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
It's probably a bad thing it wasn't released on Destiny 2 because the engine could have handled
the Zamboni.
The Zamboni. Sorry, Stephen, you were going to say something there.
No, just like, I really do enjoy Rat and Machine. I think the reason I have it so low down compared to the rest is that
you only done it 3 times.
Well, apparently so. But like,
you didn't have it that low. You had it at number 3.
But I mean, compared to what I have 1 and 2 as,
compared to what I have it at,
yeah, compared to 8. No, but I think the reason why, like, for me, it's not 1 or 2 is because I think it was the first time where the mechanics became too difficult to.
They were difficult.
It really exposed. Like, I remember my original raid team. Like, it really exposed the players who were just coasting, and I thankfully don't think I was one of those. But it did take a lot of, like, if you didn't get it, it was very easy to identify who was the weak link.
Yeah.
And
yes,
we did, like, in our original, I hope none of them listen. I don't think anyone listens to this. We had 2 or 3 really hotheads, and they'd be very quick. If you in the room with the safe rooms, if you were outside and died, the hammering you would get. So eventually we got to the stage where I would take safe room duty and I would run up with the Titan, tank a few hits, shout out, safe room is coming up, top right, run now. Like, we just took a different strategy to try and avoid that toxicity. And I just remember it being too difficult to be enjoyable. And I think that's why it's lower down for me, because I know my 1 and 2, while they were difficult, it didn't expose weak team members, which led to toxicity in our group.
That's a good point, Stephen. Yeah, because I remember when we were doing it we didn't get a day 1 finish, but we got a week 1 finish. And it's exactly what you were saying, in that the weak link on the team was letting us down, in that they were getting caught out on the slam each time, or they weren't calling out what side, or it's just something simple. And they had to leave because they'd work, and we just LFG'd the next person in that we could find, and we completed it in 20 minutes after they'd left. So yeah,
I never spoke to them again. No, seriously.
got them through the next day. But yeah, you are actually quite right on that. Yeah,
and I think that's the hard thing about, like, raids are they're the ultimate end game content, and it's like they still want that accessibility there for people who don't main it or are hardcore players. That how do you find that? But that's the thing, is how do you find the balance between difficult and sheer fucking beat your head against the wall. If you don't get it, it's so much time wasted. You have to go redo it all again. Like,
I also think it's a balance between it being long and, well, easy and short. There's the balance as well.
Yeah, and like Stephen said, when you complete it, you didn't feel anything for it. Whereas if you do something difficult, you should get that satisfaction and that drain of just like, oh my god, we did that, you know. And I think it's like the Bungie, they go back and forth on who they want to appease to this month type thing.
And that's the biggest problem, is that it changes so frequently. However, the one thing I will say is our top 4 are all the 4 longest raids.
Yeah, and like
they are the 4 with the most encounters and the most boss fights. And I think most
they're
people
the 4 original.
No.
Oh no, they're not. Jesus, yeah, sorry.
But like that, it's. I know some people don't like it, but I liked having a normal and a hard raid because it provided that perfect. If you just wanted the raid experience and you want to get it done, here's a normal raid. If you're a fucking dedicated player and you want to be tested, you want to struggle, here's your hard raid, and here's your drops that were not necessarily, if you completed normal you'd be jealous of it, but there was a significant like, holy shit, this guy done hard, but it didn't give that definitive I'm better than you.
Yeah, and that is something that they are going back into doing, which is great.
Yeah.
With VoG, it's not straight away, but down the line we are getting a master version of VoG, which is going to give adept gear. So that's great. My only worry is that they do it the wrong way round. Like, the normal raid should still be the level that we expect, and not it's like, oh, the normal raid's easier and now that's harder. It should be the normal raid is the same as you've always got, but here's your challenge.
See, I think with raids, like, I know the percentage is really low for participation.
It is very
in the community as it is, and I don't like calling them easy. I prefer saying like it's more accessible.
Yeah,
because what we experience is completely different to what someone else would experience, and what I experience in D1. Like, if you're not doing those raids week in week out, it's a different way of how it's perceived. You know.
I will say, if Grandmaster is just champions every fucking where, I am not doing it. Fuck that shit. Like,
I think. Sorry, go on.
I can't face doing VoG where every single enemy is a champion, or that that the difficulty is taking down champions. Like, fuck that. Like, bring in new mechanics. Do something different. Don't just
don't curate my loadout, please. I fucking hate
that. That was annoying. And Leviathan.
That's actually something we never actually touched on with Eater and Spire and Crown.
Yeah, I forgot that actually.
The prestige mode. And see, I don't even think it's that we didn't want to talk about it. We just forgot about it. That the prestige modes curated your loadout. And I think that's actually why I dislike those raids so much, because I had no desire to do those raids while using a bow and a sidearm with a linear fusion rifle for a heavy, because it just, the curated raids, it didn't work. So I hope they don't go back to that. Yeah.
And I think that's why the hard raids in Destiny 1 were more well received, because it wasn't just, like you said, Stephen, throw in harder enemies. It was the added mechanics to it as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll move on to our top 3. Coming in at number 3, I think, no, it wasn't. Stephen had it as his number 2, and me and Dill both have it at 4. And it is the Big Daddy, King Oryx himself, in King's Fall. So, Stephen, as you put it as your second favorite ahead of us, why don't you tell us why you put it so high?
It was the first proper full raid experience. So, like, Crota was good, but Crota wasn't the length of Vault of Glass, and it wasn't as difficult as Vault of Glass. King's Fall was the first kind of live drop we got of a raid where there was this kind of race to worlds first, because I'm sure there was for Vault of Glass, but I wasn't into raids and I wasn't into
There was,
Destiny
and
as
you
much.
wouldn't be able to name anybody off the team.
So like I missed that experience. But King's Fall, there was huge hype. I know there was hype around Crota, but there was issues. But King's Fall, there was a big hype around who was going to be first, and all the encounters were unique. The whole play space, like the Dreadnought, is amazing.
Such a nice
like,
spot.
And it's so vast as well and oppressive. Like as you go deeper and deeper into it, you get darker. You come across more hard, like Golgoroth. Like that's an awful, awful thing to come across. And then you fight the Witch Sisters and eventually Daddy Oryx. And it was like the story going into it, and you kill them in the campaign, but it's like, oh hey, you need to go back and kill him in his throne room, and then you get introduced to the Ascendant Realm and what the throne rooms are, and it just everything just connected. And I think that would be my favorite, if not for other things to do with Vault of Glass. But everything that is Destiny to me is tied up in King's Fall.
Isn't it amazing, Stephen, if you have a campaign tied around the main boss and put him at the culmination?
Can you name the world's first team, Stephen, from King's Fall? Or name anybody off it?
Battalion.
Yeah. Just got
Battalion, Broman, and
T-Rex,
Chariona, and who else do they have?
Gunny and Rebelize.
Gunny and Rebelize, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Crota's End, world's first, was Invigorate. I don't know. I don't know anyone off that list. And Vault of Glass was Prime Guard. The only name I know off that list is Nanowatts.
Oh, really? Wow.
For what it's worth, seems we've named them all. Wrath of the Machine, who got world's first?
Oh,
it was their first world's first, and they've had plenty since.
Glad. This was Glad's team, wasn't it?
It was Redeem. Yeah.
Redeem.
Yeah.
Glad wasn't on the team, but it was Redeem.
Oh, Redeem. Yeah.
Anyway,
I think we're redeeming the hard mode on Crota as well. You don't need to check it. I think they came in earlier than that, though.
I literally just closed it. Hard mode Crota was Gigs.
Gigs, okay.
Anyway, King's Fall. For me, King's Fall is the perfect length of raid, and I feel like somewhere between Vault of Glass and King's Fall is where they should be aiming at for raid length. I think Last Wish, well, we will get to it. It's a much longer experience, and let's be honest, whenever we do it, we blow the hell out of Riven rather than doing it properly. And that would add on an extra 10 minutes as well if you don't wipe. So I think Last Wish is a bit long for what Destiny is. But King's Fall is that perfect length. And yeah, as you said, like it was like the encounters were fantastic. And I like that it had different mechanics for each encounter.
And each encounter was so different and unique in itself.
So, you had slight little things, like you had the totems, and then you had the kind of a similar thing on War Priest, but like the Golgoroth was completely different.
Golgoroth's amazing.
Golgoroth was what Golgoroth killed most teams day one.
Yeah.
Because it is one of the best encounters they've ever designed. Because even the fact that it could be done like several different ways, just it's such a good encounter.
And then the hard version where you had to have 3 people baiting him down that end, get the shot on his back, and then the other team bait him down that end, get the other shot on his back. So good.
Yeah.
And like you said, Stephen, when you come out of Golgoroth and you get the famous dick wall, like just that whole environment on the Dreadnought was amazing. Like you said, you're getting deeper and deeper into it, and it's just dark and dreary.
I think the biggest letdown for King's Fall was the loot. The guns weren't fantastic.
Yeah, the guns weren't amazing. Like I remember
there was a couple that were good, but
I loved the pulse was great.
The pulse was good, yeah.
Yeah.
But like we actually never touched on it. Wrath of the Machine. The Wrath of the Machine guns were fantastic.
What was that? Chaos Dogma was the auto. That was just
Ghost Primus was the auto, wasn't it?
No, that was
No, that's Leviathan.
Oh, that's Leviathan. Sorry.
Chaos Dogma.
Yeah, Chaos Dogma. Yeah. I love that gun. It was fucking brilliant, especially the Adept version.
Well, Touch of Malice though was a game changer.
Yeah, but see, Touch of Malice was raid specific though. It was only really used in King's Fall. You didn't really use it anywhere else in the game.
But I really liked it for that as well, is that you go and you kill Daddy Oryx, and then you go, we're not done with you yet. We're putting your soul into this gun, and then we're gonna fucking kill you with it over and over again.
It's actually actually the other way around. Just to be correct on the lore, that was actually his last wish.
Yeah, it was. It was to feed his worm. Yeah,
he wanted to be killed.
Yeah. But still, it's that feeling of like you've killed this god, turned him into a weapon, and then every week you go back and kill his daughters and himself with his own soul.
Yeah.
And I think his boss fight, like the scale of him, I think every team would just like took a step back and shat themselves when he came out.
Oh yeah,
because I know he was part of the skybox and you couldn't really interact with it, but just when you see him towering over that center platform, it's just like, holy shit. I do not want to be standing here right now.
You're in that arena and you kind of like, you kill the sisters and you're like, oh, where's Oryx? Oh, here's a bit of the Taken Blight thing. What happens when I touch this? Whoa!
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually would like to know how that encounter worked, because he was part of the skybox, really. Like, what were we actually shooting when his chest opened up?
Yeah.
It was like Captain in the Deep Stone Crypt.
But even like, for something that was part of the skybox, it interacted well with the environment.
Unreal,
because remember, like, it goes to each plate, and there was 4 of them, wasn't there? So even like, it wasn't just like a shift to the left or shift to the right. It was like physically moving, like it was amazing. It's a spectacle, like.
And yeah, that's the thing, the spectacle and the scale of that entire raid. Like, the jumping puzzle had you jumping on top of fucking hive ships, for God's sake.
Oh yes,
like,
forgot that.
I think when you think of King's Fall, you think of the Oryx fight, you think of the Sisters and Golgroth fight, but like, King's Fall had, I think there was about a dozen encounters in total if you include jumping puzzles in there, because you had to open the portal, and then you had the totems. No, you had a jumping puzzle, and then you had the totems, and then you'd War Priest, then you had Golgoroth's maze, then you'd Golgoroth, then you'd another jumping puzzle with a basketball court, and then you had, obviously you had the secrets to do with that. Then you had the sisters, and then you had Oryx. You had 9 encounters across the raid. It was fucking,
and it didn't feel like shit, we're here for the next couple of hours. It felt like,
it did. It felt like we were here forever.
Personally, I didn't feel like that. I felt like it was so exciting, and each encounter was like, right, we're getting ready, let's go. And you get it done, and then it's like you sit back from it and you're like, right, next encounter. It wasn't like you're just sitting there going through the motions. It felt like you really had, I think this was my second most played in Destiny 1 raid wise. I think it came like Taken King obviously was a big thing for a lot of people, and it reinvigorated a lot of play for me personally. But I think this was the one that I stuck through on LFG, because I really felt like I shined through it, and just really enjoyed it as a raid.
Yep.
I think the one drawback for me, just to be a negative Nancy about it, the reason I don't rank it as high as the other ones, why I had it as 4th, I think, was a lot of the encounters, while the mechanics were great, they were mechanic heavy and there were different mechanics, but there was a lot of stand here, shoot this.
Yeah,
you did something out of it. Stand here, shoot this. Stand on this platform. Stand here, do an emote, jump off and grab a blue engram. But it was a lot of stand here, whereas with Wrath of the Machine, just to touch back on it, it was, you're doing a mechanic, but you're doing it while running 20 meters that way and shooting a few enemies.
Yeah.
It felt more active mechanics, whereas King's Fall was very static mechanics. not to criticize it. That's just it's the way it was.
I think that's just how I just think that's how the early days of raids were.
Yeah.
Like with Vault as well, it was that typical. To me, it was the first time they've done something on that scale of 6-man activity in endgame content. Like how do you make 6 people inclusive to what you're doing? The one thing, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's something that they're clearly learning.
They've grown with,
they've
completely.
grown with learning. But like I think the fact that raids are even possible, like it doesn't matter if you like them, if they're your favorite or you're not your favorite. The fact that any of these actually work, is impossible. They shouldn't exist. And the same in other MMOs, Final Fantasy 14, WoW. The fact that these encounters actually work is a miracle. It shouldn't be possible, but it is. Right, moving on to our top 2. And we had a tie.
Ooh.
So we could do a couple of ways of tie breaking it, or we can just accept it that a tie is okay because either of these are deserving winners.
Yeah.
I was looking at splitting it by gear sets and weapon sets, but one is a clear winner on weapon sets and the other is a clear winner on armor sets. So I think we should
don't give me an MLA, Stephen.
Yeah, I think
one is clear winner on both weapon and armor sets.
No.
The Great Hunt armor sets were fucking incredible.
No, I'm sorry. I want to be the Vex. That was the best.
The thing is, right, if you look at the armor sets we have now, like there's a lot more on them. They're a lot fancier.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas, and I think it's a product of where we're at in the game cycle. It's where we're at in the game cycles. They can make nicer stuff now because the engine can handle it. Whereas in year 1, Destiny 1, the gear, the weapon set blew everything else out of the water.
Yeah.
So I don't think that'd be a fair comparison. We looked at.
Can you imagine what variation of Vault armor we're gonna get in the remaster?
I hope we get the basic version for
normal,
and the normal, and then the master version is the ornamented set.
Anyway, just not even as like the textures on that when you look at it in Destiny 1, it's like the contrast is just, it's undeniable.
Anyway, it's quite obvious what the 2 tie-break winners are. It's Vault of Glass and Last Wish. And I think you could make a case for either of them to be the best raid. I think Vault of Glass it's the first cuts the deepest. It was the first time anyone has ever experienced anything like that in a first-person shooter game. And then you have Last Wish, which is just, in my opinion, it's the pinnacle of raiding in Destiny. Like, you go on a journey in that raid.
Yeah.
So as me and Dylan both chose Last Wish to be our favorite raids, and Stephen chose Vault of Glass to be his first raid. So Stephen, you can lodge your argument, your case for why Vault of Glass should have been the winner.
Because it has the best weapons, the best gear set.
I want to be Vex.
Still OP.
I want to be a sexy Vexy.
I want one eyeball.
Shoot me in my stomach.
I rest my case. I'm done. You made all my arguments. No, I think. Look, I don't know if there's a realistic way to split the hair between Last Wish and Vault of Glass. I think the reason Vault of Glass gets it for me is because it's the first time I had to go out of my comfort zone. I had to LFG. I had to do something to play this. It pissed me off because it's like there's a piece of content here that I can't play because for some reason I'm not able to matchmake, which I can do in every other activity. And I don't know what this is. I don't know what a raid is. And I can't play it all because I don't have friends.
Mine was because my fucking friends weren't leveled up enough.
But that was the other thing. You couldn't. There was literally no other way to level. Like once you got to level 26,
leveling was tough.
You had to raid.
You had to raid. You could Nightfalls could get you to 26. After that, you needed raid gear, and then you could be forever 29. But it was just that whole experience of getting a group, putting a post up on Bungie forums, finding the one other Irish guy who read it, turned out to be one of the nicest people I've ever met. And we found other people who do the same. Found one of my mates from college was playing Destiny, but also was in a similar situation. And we made a group and we went through it. And it was just that whole experience has opened me up to new experiences. Like I wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for that one experience. So for me, that gets it. Perfect. It is nostalgia. Like the raid is not the best raid of them all, but it is the first raid. It was the raid that did it. It's the reason things have happened the way they have for me. So for that reason, it's my favorite. But I would not, if someone said to me Last Wish was the best, I couldn't say you're wrong, because there are reasons why that is a good one. But for me, that's why VOG got it.
Yeah, like VOG was the gateway into
it really
raiding,
opened up your imagination of what's possible.
The gateway drug to Destiny.
Yeah.
I think VOG is what did capture so many people, though. Like a lot of people, myself included, had played through Destiny, loved what I played, and then I did the Revolt of Glass, and I was like, "Oh my god, I never want to play another game again. This is all I need to play forever." And then there was no content for 5 years.
But, so it's all I did play forever.
Yeah, but yeah, like just figuring out, like that was the first time I'd ever done anything like that in a game. I'd never done a cooperative raid. I'd played maybe fucking a cooperative sofa couch co-op thing. I'd never played something like that where I had to play with my friends to get a PvE encounter done. And yeah, it was... I remember my first experience of it was I just got dragged into one where they were at the oracles, and out there I was basically told, shoot the red things. I was like, oh, okay, no problem. Yeah, I wasn't told how to shoot the oracles or what to shoot them with, what they were, and it was an absolute it was a train wreck. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna leave because this isn't gonna go anywhere. Then I eventually got a group together and got going, and we figured out how to do the oracles. We figured out how to beat the Templar, how to use the relic and all that, how to get past the Gorgons. All blind. We didn't know where we were going on the Gorgon maze. We just kind of figured it out and got lucky.
Yeah.
Then you had the jump puzzle. You had to figure out how to do the gatekeepers, and it was patched together. But we eventually got through it. But beating Vault of Glass for the first time is still it's pretty great. Pretty great feeling beating your first raid and getting no Vex Mythoclast.
Dale?
Yeah, like for me, it's the nostalgia factor. It was the first raid I've ever participated in any game. Like Kev was saying, to have a 6-man activity of just you have to be one fucking cohesive unit, and you have to do X amount of things to get to the next stage. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was. I think I'm really gonna enjoy it more when it comes back into D2.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm repeating myself, but I was that casual in D1 that raids have much more going to them when you understand the story. And like you were saying, Kev, when you're just thrown in and said, stand there, shoot this, you don't take away that same feeling.
No, you don't.
That you do if you're the one, not necessarily leading it, but if you understand what you're doing, the story behind what you're doing and why you're doing it. And like Stephen was saying, and if it comes across in how I explained Garden to you, like I can't wait for Vault to come back, because I think I'll be on that same caliber of excitement.
I think that's something that it's from that thrown in, dragged into a Vault of Glass Oracle encounter and said, "Oh, just shoot the red things," and maybe that's where I get it from. When I do a raid, I want to know exactly how everything works. Like I'll know how to do every fucking thing, so I can explain it to someone else, rather than just say, "Stand there, shoot that, and you'll be fine." I don't like doing raids with people like that because they don't take it. They get a bit of loot. And some people, don't get me wrong, some people, all they want is the loot and they can get stuffed. But...
And that's the annoying part when an expansion comes along. And I think as a group, we're passionate for the content we're doing and the story behind it as well. That when you do have people who just... And it's... Everyone plays games for different reasons. Everyone has their own way of enjoying certain things, but it's like this is your little baby, and when someone comes along, just fucking takes the t-shirt off your baby and fucks off, and then never comes back, you're kind of like,
see you next season, bitch.
Yeah.
I also think it's the fact of like when we do it, it's almost like a group of friends hanging out.
Yeah.
Now, friends, we bicker and we piss each other off and give out to each other and people get upset, but that's a group of friends. But it's when other people kind of tag along for a couple of weeks and like, oh yeah, I want to do this every week, and then after a while they're just like, whatever. It's like, you were just using us. You didn't actually want to be with us. You could have been with any fucking team in the world and it would have been the same for you.
It's just we
treat it as a group of friends doing things.
That's more annoying because when you're building up that, like, I feel you talk to people more during a raid on a casual level. Like, you don't talk to people like that playing PvP.
No, you don't.
Like, you're talking the downtime in between it. But I think in a raid, when you get past that, like, we know what we're doing stage, and then you're talking endless. It's like the thing you're talking to someone when you're driving. You're not thinking about it. You're just talking. Like, you say much more things. Like, it's comfortable, you know.
That's actually I mentioned it earlier, and that Luke Smith did an interview with Planet Destiny about Vault of Glass, and he actually speaks. That's something he specifically speaks about, in that you do Templar and you drop down and you're talking. You're just talking. You're getting to know people. It's like, how's the family? How's the dog? Oh, you had a baby. Congrats. Whereas he actually specifically speaks about it. I'll include the link to the Apple podcast of that in the description, just in case anyone does actually want to listen to it, because the whole Sunset Luke Smith thing became a bit of a toxic meme over the last few months, and then he got a promotion. But when you listen to Luke Smith actually talk about what he's created in Destiny, you can clearly hear how passionate he is about what he does. He's made mistakes, he's got things wrong, but he's never done anything in Destiny that wasn't intended to be a positive thing. And when he speaks about Vogue and the baby he created there, like, you can hear the passion in his voice. It's a good podcast.
Can't believe you're leaking someone else's podcast on your podcast.
It's all right. It aired like 4 years ago. It's okay.
That's well outside the window.
Well outside.
But yeah, that's like that like narrows it into my pet peeves in gaming, where you start to build up. I know it's how people play it, but you start to build up a relationship or a rapport with somebody, and then they just fuck off, and you're kind of like, all right,
sounds nice knowing you.
Yeah, and I think me personally, I take it to heart a bit more.
Yeah,
because,
I definitely do.
Yeah, and like, I'm very hard to go back to the way it was before that. Like, I can't look past certain things very quickly.
Yeah, I definitely get
like that.
I think people do that.
I think raiding is something, like you said, Kev. We do it as a group of friends. It's not necessarily, let's just knock this out within 20 minutes, half an hour. It's a bonus, but it's not the foundation of why we're doing it.
And I think some people, when they come in, they expect that as a given, that it's going to be done real quick and I don't have to interact with them. And we're like, no, we want to chat. We want to have a laugh. It's not.
I want to know your star sign, bro.
Yeah, it's not just a sign in at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday evening and smash this out and everyone's gone by 7 and we don't fucking say a word to each other. Anyway.
Granted, that happens because people have shit going on and stuff, but you look past that more when it's a regular occurrence of coming together, you know.
And last point on Vogue before we move on.
So basically, Stephen, raid more every Tuesday at 6 o'clock with everybody.
Yeah, I feel like it's very targeted at me, by the way. We'll move on.
Before we move on to last wish for a 5-minute discussion because we do actually need to wrap it up. We're not doing pet peeves tonight. Not a chance.
Yeah.
But the Vault of Glass weapon set is still the best raid weapon set they've done. And there's probably a reason for that. They kind of overshot the mark. They were a little bit too powerful. It was you use Vogue weapons or you don't use anything for a while.
Yeah.
Like Fatebringer, Vision, Aethan's Epilogue, Vex Mythoclast, Praedit's Revenge, Sniper. They were all fucking great weapons, and I can't wait to get them in my hands again and see how nicely they take shaders now that we can put shaders on weapons.
And I think that kind of, it's like they realized that they overset the bar too high, because every raid after that, there was only like one outlier or one outstanding.
There wasn't even any, like Black Hammer was the only outlier after that in a raid. Nothing else ever had an outlier, really. They were strong, but they weren't the be-all and end-all. Anyway, Last Wish. So Last Wish, as I was saying, like Last Wish it's a journey. Like you open up that door at the beginning in Dreaming City, and you get the voice line from whoever, and then like just the encounters. And what I loved about it was So Dill, you were saying you would love how raids have a mechanic and they build on that mechanic. What I love about Last Wish is that they had the mechanic and they built on the mechanic of the symbols, so the fish, the fish, the bird, the dragons. They built on that mechanic through the encounters. But the other mechanics of the encounters were completely different the whole way through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I like. I do like that building on the mechanic. But what I think separates Last Wish from the rest of them is that it was like Deepstone Crypt was, we gave you a blue one as well as a red and yellow. Whereas Last Wish, like Morgeth is completely different to Shuro-Chi. Shuro-Chi is completely different. The only similarity between Shuro-Chi and Kali is you shoot them both in the head.
And they kind of look similar.
They both got a tiny little hitbox. And then
they're both tech witches.
And then you've got my personal favorite encounter in any Destiny raid, the Vault. Like doing Vault for the first time and trying to figure out how Vault worked.
Still don't know to this day.
Yeah, you still don't know exactly how it worked, but actually figuring out how that worked and just going, now I get it. It's just like, it's genius. I don't know how they created it. And I remember Tefty was like, it's something to do with the shadows. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I think that was the one raid where people were really hyper focusing on the little things going around, whereas you're looking too deep into it.
Yeah. And then then you moved on to Riven. You had the jumping bit. Oh, you'd vault, and then you opened up, you went to Riven. And if you've done Riven legit, most people haven't because you don't have to. But Riven legit is an insanely difficult boss fight. It's so many different layers to it. You have the eyes, and you have to memorize the eyes, and then you do damage, and then you're falling down, doing more damage, and then you have to go to the crystal room and reset and do the symbol. You have to have one person looking through, and the other person has to go. It's just crazy. And it's why they haven't done anything like that since, because it's too complicated for the average Destiny player. Even it's really only the top 10% are gonna bother with anything like that. And then you actually have, after you kill the raid boss, you then have to escape. Yeah. Which is fucking great that they finally did that in a raid, and I'm so happy when they did it. But yeah, that's me finishing fanboying on Last Wish, and it took me 55 or 60 encounter or raid completions to get 1k voices, so I'm gonna shut up now because I
still don't have it.
Because you've done like 4 of them, probably, yeah. Oh, but, so you're saying you need to do a flawless Last Wish? Oh, let's go.
I get the horn out.
We haven't done flawless Last Wish.
Assemble.
We haven't done a Petrus run yet.
No, haven't done a Petrus.
Oh yeah, no, we haven't. Apparently, I've only got 6 Last Wish clears.
I wasn't wrong.
See us on Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Until Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Yeah, I think the only thing that really lets down Last Wish for me was the weapon set wasn't fantastic. The armor set.
Where are the weapons again?
There was a few, like Nation of Beasts was decent. I actually have. I actually have the weapon set written out. Nation of Beasts was different. Like Chattering Bone was decent.
Oh, Shattering Bone like when that first came out in PvP, that was a beast.
But like Age Old Bond is forgetful. Transfiguration's a scout rifle. Supremacy is a lovely sniper, but it doesn't rank up against any of the top snipers in the game.
That had its moment for a while. I think
did,
primarily
but-
because it was a primary sniper as well.
Then you've got Techie and Force, Tyrion at Heaven, and a rocket launcher, so whatever. But it did have 1k voices. But yeah, that's our order. I don't know if Fuse want to say anything about Last Wish, because I've kind of hogged the spotlight on this one.
No, like I think you hit the spot though. But like every encounter was so singular, but had the background of the symbols. It's just and the space that it was in as well was a spectacle.
I never actually touched on that. Yeah,
it wasn't
the
even
raid
just
space was
go through a door or go through a portal and you're here. It was you're moving through this environment to the next encounter, which I really like that, because it's not that it adds length to it, but it fleshes it out more into that. It's not just rinse repeat a boss fight to a boss fight to another boss fight. It's you do your fight, you go through your next zone, you can explore, you can rush through it if you want, but the option is there. In terms of Riven, that's just it's on par with King's Fall as like the scale of the boss itself. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then when you have to take the heart, it's just like, holy shit, there's more to do.
There's more. It's like you kill the boss, and you're like, oh yeah, we're done. Woo! Wait,
where's my chest?
Where's my chest?
Yeah,
and there's more. Yeah, great.
And like, I think that was after Leviathan, it really it was, holy shit, this is the raid.
This is a raid.
Yeah,
after Leviathan, like, this is a raid.
And like, I know we don't play it as much, and I think that's because, well, for me, one, the length of it, but when you're looking at playing a raid each week, you don't want the long raid. You just want to play it out and get your rewards. But it's the level cap and the gear cap that doesn't bring it up to the current.
That is a pity.
Which it does take away, because like I was saying, if you had every raid in the game that was dropping the same level as the current Deep Stone Crypt, I think you'd just have a lot more active player base in the older raids.
Or even have a rotating weekly raid.
Yeah, a weekly
the way it used to be in Destiny 1 still is.
Yeah. Because I just like the armor set is incredible. I know the weapons are a bit below par, but the armor, like when Transmog comes out next season, the majority of my hunter is gonna be Grey Hunt gear. You know?
Mm-hmm. Steven,
and you can't do that, Stephen, with your vaulting glass. La 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 la.
Can't wait to look like a Vex again. I think I have 2 points around why Last Wish would be my first. And
would or wouldn't? Sorry, would or wouldn't?
Wouldn't be my first. So I spoke about the nostalgia of Fog, but practically speaking, Last Wish is just too long. And it goes back to the point I raised about Leviathan earlier on. You're stopped not because of your power level, but because of the mechanics. And nowhere is this more evident than is it Shuro? No, not Shirochi. What's the second? Kali.
Yeah.
With all those little points, and you're like, come on now. And it's artificially slowing you down, and you're like, is there really a point to this? I could probably get her in one go if it wasn't for this.
I think that could have been one platform shorter just to hit that sweet spot.
Yeah. So
it's always it's when you're running out of ammo towards the end.
Yeah.
Do you know what I always found though, just on Shirochi while we're on that part? It was never DPS that I failed Shirochi on. It was an idiot not knowing how to count 1, 2, 3, 4.
On the
puzzle. It's the puzzle that stumps most teams on that.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
So for me, it's just slightly too long to be that sort of like regular raid that you'd want to do 3 on reset.
Yeah.
Especially because the gear, as you said, isn't great. So armor, we're in disagreement with, but
somebody sitting there going, "You leave my nation of beasts alone. It's amazing."
Yeah, it's good. It's not amazing. It's no Fatebringer. And the other one then that knocks it down slightly for me.
Nations of Beasts is in the game. Fatebringer isn't.
Yet.
Yeah.
The story. So the raid story is phenomenal. The lead up into it was just like the end of Forsaken, where it goes from you're chasing Uldren to there is a flying meatball.
Yeah.
What's going on? Why is there a flying
Possessed.
meatball? And then Riven and all of this kind of comes out of nowhere. And for me, I didn't feel like there was a build up to the raid for Riven to be the final encounter.
Yeah.
And again, like I could argue that was not in Vault of Glass either. I'll just say I know the hypocrisy of what I'm saying. It wasn't really present for Vogue either. But in Last Wish, there was such a build up to the story of it that came out of left field, and then the raid dealt with the different side of the story that I wasn't prepared for. And
Do you know
it's
what
good.
is funny about the raid story though is that the raid story wasn't connected. It was kind of connected, but it wasn't. It wasn't like King's Fall where you were saying you've killed him, you kill him in his throne room to final death. But the story that began in Last Wish is the story that's coming to fruition now with Savathûn. So it's like, we've been getting build up for so long. Come on, give us a payoff, Bungie. Come on, give us a payoff. Sorry, go on, Steven.
No, that's it. And actually, that's a really good point back to Dylan's earlier one, which is raids tend to end a story and then we pick up 2 to 3 years later. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Why?
I think the last 3 or 4 raids, leaving out Garden of Salvation. Oh, not actually leaving out Garden of Salvation.
Because the darkness
because the statue at the end, yeah. So all of the raids, they haven't been ending a story, as you're saying, Steve. They've all been contributing to this story this journey that we're still on, and which will be going for the next 3 years.
Yeah, if we're looking.
Fucking hell, Tolkien.
To put to kind of have something side by side, like I've noticed with playing WoW quests, for example, when you're doing like a quest of it, like there was one I just finished today. It was in the Legion storyline. It was an area called High Mountain, and you're basically gathering all these tribes together to fight for the one cause. And the end of that story leads into a dungeon. And I was kind of like, holy shit, I can't solo a dungeon, so I'm going to leave the story. I went into the next zone, done another whole quest line that took about 3 or 4 hours. And the culmination of that, where we have to kill this guy now, is a dungeon. So, like, that's a match-made activity. And that's something like a raid or like a dungeon in Destiny that just culminizes that story that you've been working towards. And it really, like, just gives it that much more, like, yeah, it's to me, I prefer when you have that big ending for a story and not just something that's dropped in, you know.
I do agree. However,
and it's annoying because
match-made raids would be a nightmare.
Yeah, raids.
You couldn't pay me enough.
Even if you ended a strike on,
it'd need to be a pretty impressive strike.
Yeah.
They could do a strike version of the raid that can lead into the raid version later on.
Or they could just release a campaign and then yeah. But that's one thing that I have picked up with WoW, and it is enjoyable that when you're doing your main quest lines, it does lead into an end game activity, and it's annoying because I'm playing it solo and I want to do that, so I'll go into matchmaking or whatever. But it gives that story bigger meaning and like kind of a higher scale.
Yeah.
That holy shit, this leads into a dungeon, which is an end game activity. You know.
On to Final Fantasy 14.
I've already got one MMO. I don't need another.
I think everyone can only have one MMO in their life. And actually, just to segue off something Dill said, I think we're finished talking about the raids now. Yes. No other comments to make.
Yeah.
Quick segue, because we do need to wrap this up. We are way over fucking time. It shows it shows how passionate we are about Destiny. To segue off that, I think it would be remiss to talk about endgame activities and raids in Destiny and not bring up the wonderful piece of content we got nearly a year ago in the Prophecy dungeon.
Prophecy.
Like, I know Shadowtron was fantastic. We had the Whisper mission there on the 0 hour, whatever that other dungeon that I can't think of the name of right now is called. They're all great. Don't get me wrong. I love them. But Prophecy was just like, I spoke earlier about how beautiful Garden of Salvation is, how I love the aesthetic of Wrath of the Machine, how the journey through Last Wish through the Dreaming City is incredible, but Prophecy Dungeon is just the most beautiful piece of content we have. Even the fucking desert is beautiful part, the sand part.
And it's funny because it's mostly like two-tone, like
yeah.
the
But that
majority
fits,
of
like-
that is black and white.
It's like a part of me wishes Prophecy wasn't a dungeon, and they had developed it into a fully fledged raid. Because it's still like I don't do it as much as I did when it first came out. Of like 110 fucking completions of the thing, but just it's one of the fondest memories I have of playing Destiny is doing the Prophecy dungeon, because it's just I just love how the rooms work and how they don't actually rotate and shit, but we pretend they do. And then Ribbon Road is just like you get to the top of bottom of Ribbon Road and look back up and you see where you started, and you can't actually see where you started, and it's just like this is just beautiful. But I just wanted to give an honorable mention to my favorite piece of Destiny content, which is the Prophecy dungeon.
Like it fits back into the whole telling a story at that time for me. Like
it also
that fits into the
aesthetic we're still
of...
going on.
Huh?
It also fits into this story we're going on with Savathûn.
Yeah, but like in terms of like Trials of the Nine came out in year 1, and then we had Season of the Drifter, which brought out Gambit Prime and the whole emissary quest lines, which was in that same aesthetic space as the Prophecy dungeon. So I think if you explain it all as a whole one, I just think it would be
If Prophecy came out during Season of the Drifter, it would have.
Could you imagine that was the raid of the Season of the Drifter, or the dungeon of the Season of the Drifter? Like, even just to explain that story in that same aesthetic, like it's like, yeah. But I can't put it into words, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, because like the culmination of the Prophecy dungeon is you ask the question like, what is the darkness?
Yeah, and
the answer is there is no difference between light and dark.
Yeah.
And that was where Seasons of the Drifter was going. Is the Drifter a bad person? Are we bad for allying with him? And if that was the culmination activity at the end where you hear from Owner, that they go, there are no two sides to this. Like light and dark are the same thing in our eyes. Like, where the fuck do you go from there? You're like, wow. That was the payoff early, not a year later. You go, oh yeah, cool.
But that would feel as like a full circle, like you said. You get explained. I know you don't get an answer, but you get that whole like, holy shit! I feel this has come to the end of this.
Is the Drifter Destiny's version of Severus Snape?
No.
He's neither good nor bad. He's kind of in the middle somewhere. Think about that. Call me an idiot.
I love the Drifter. I enjoy all his parts of the story. Like Season of the Drifter, I loved because I love Gambit, so exploring that more, and I loved that whole emissary arc and the cutscenes between the two of them, and then it just fizzed and went nowhere.
Yeah, I like the Drifter as a character. I think he's really well done and really interesting. I want more of.
Yeah, just more.
We have our Darkness trio. I want more of that.
Yeah, we saw a trailer and that was it.
Oh yeah.
Beyond Light.
Yeah.
Right. We've shot over time. We haven't touched on our pet peeves and things we don't like. Do we want to leave those till next week, or will we just keep fucking going now that we're here?
No, keep them till next week. Keep them till next week.
I actually wrote out something. I actually wrote a script to read off for something that really annoys me.
Now you can have a second draft by next Thursday.
I can add to it. Yeah, no problem. We'll wait till then.
This is a good one.
Yeah, this is a good one. I think if we go into that, it could get a bit negative anyway, so we leave it on the positive stuff. I hadn't actually prepared any news really for this one because I knew it was going to go long, but the little bits of news we did get this week was there's an apparent Switch Pro actually going to come out this year. That came out very late last night, and I'm very excited for if that ends up being true because I want to play 4K Pokemon. because I am a child.
I will pay 1080p 60 frames. That's what I want. 4K is fine, but I need 60 frames.
Yeah, if there's a performance mode, happy days. You know what? I actually don't even need 60 frames Pokemon. I'd be happy at a stable 30. Because Sword and Shield are not a stable 30. If you gave me a stable 30 frames per second in Arceus Legends or Legends of Arceus, whatever it's fucking called, I'm going back to Destiny. If you gave me a stable 30 frames, I'd be happy because that Chingling was not 30 frames per second. The other little bits of news, the Marvel's Avengers game got an update this afternoon from Square Enix, and they were talking about the grind in that game and how the leveling up process takes a certain amount of time, and people found it quite grindy and didn't like it, so they're gonna extend it.
Jesus,
they are fixing the right thing but doing it in the complete wrong way. Are you trying to kill your game?
It's still alive.
It's just about the horses.
People play this game.
It's crazy to think and as part of that as well, they also looked at they're also disabling random cosmetic drops. They're absolutely going hard on fucking microtransactions. Even though their fucking announcement for that game was no microtransactions. Anyway, the game wasn't great. Not that it matters.
Apex got some good news today. Their next takeover event got announced, and it's Caustic. So he's getting an event next Tuesday. He's taken over water treatment as a takeover. There's seriously good patch notes, and there's a lot of buffs, a lot of nerfs. The biggest one nerf is to Mastiff, reduces the spread from 13 to 11 damage. A few characters got nice little buffs. Yeah, all in all good.
Two other little bits of news that I actually just remembered because they're actually pretty big. Steven's going to tell me I didn't actually see this, but we saw some Elden Ring this week.
Oh, was this the one that was leaked, shot on
It was leaked footage off a camera, off a Motorola camera phone. But Elden Ring gameplay trailer exists, and hopefully we will be seeing it soon because Bandai Namco trademarked next thing.
Oh, they're doing like an event, aren't they?
Might be an event where they actually show some Elden Ring, and it's going to come out in 2004.
Because George Martin does not know how to finish writing anything.
Stephen made a very good joke about George Martin, that George Martin is the living embodiment of stasis because anything he touches slows down. And then the last bit we got that I can remember off the top of my head was that Bungie actually trademarked BungieCon. So we may actually be getting an official Destiny event.
I read about this some point. And I got excited, but apparently they trademarked something very similar in like 2016.
Yeah.
That
so maybe they
came to no fruition.
Yeah. It may just be a thing that...
or Bungie Coin?
Con, as in like an event.
Bungie convention.
I've completely misread this news for the last week. I thought it was Bungie Coin. Like, why are they releasing their own cryptocurrency? Crypto mental.
But it could just be a thing that they don't want anyone else doing the same event, and they've just been holding it because we had the Destiny Con and Guardian Con and whatever it's.
It would be great.
The something get Expo now. But yeah, it would be amazing. Obviously the world we're in at the moment doesn't really cater for that, but hopefully at some point.
I think a Bungie Con would come in great in a couple of years when they do expand into this multimedia verse.
And I think it's going alongside that, this expansion that they're running on, because it's not just like, I know Bungie did Halo back in the day, but Destiny has been Bungie's sole focus for the last 10 years. And with them expanding out into developing their own new IP and probably becoming their own kind of umbrella company where they have other developers working under them, the likes of Bethesda have them, Microsoft, PlayStation have their own studios, Blizzard have them. So there is a space where a Bungie Con could exist because you could have Destiny, not Destiny, other Destiny, PvP in the corner being fucked over again. But anyway.
Well, speaking of PvP being fucked over, hot off the press, Trials was cancelled this weekend again.
Oh, yeah, is it actually? Yeah. Oh my God.
Trials.
The TWAB just came out.
The TWAB. So last weekend, Trials of Osiris was disabled due to unexpected issues. While these issues are being investigated, Trials of Osiris will be unavailable to players. We'll have more information when it becomes available.
So I can't get the hand cannon at 3 wins this week.
I think that is the best call. It's a bit shit because I was looking forward to playing it again. But it's my dad's birthday tomorrow, so it meant I wasn't going to be playing Trials anyway. So.
Happy birthday, Daddy Kev.
Happy birthday, Daddy Kev. He's 61.
Happy birthday, Alan.
Yes, he's 61.
I prefer Daddy Kev.
Daddy Kev.
Daddy Kev.
We look similar enough. I don't think there's any other news, so we should probably wrap it. We had the Cyberpunk news in that the patch is going to be delayed. I just saw it over here and remembered that the next patch is delayed. So, because of the shit that went on,
I'm waiting until I collect that monitor off you to play it. I know it's right there.
Right there.
I'm lazy.
I'm here 24/7, quite literally. I don't think I've forgotten any news. We'll go on Pet Hates next week. I've got 2 or 3 already. And I've got a spiel that I wrote out. It's actually, I know you saw the title of it, Stephen, but it's actually not specifically about that. It's actually about in general terms, and I'll probably have to rant with you anyway because it's what I do. Anyway, someone wrap us up because I don't have time to explain.
Neither do I.
Shit.
Right, well, that has been episode 6 and our opinions on our 12 Destiny raids to date. No matter what comes out, I think all the Leviathan raids will be bottom 3. And yeah, join us next week when we're going to talk about why we hate certain things in games. And I think
that won't be the soul. That won't be the sole focus next week. No. That'll only be a 20-minute chat.
But that's what you're gonna hear.
But we will figure out what we're talking about next week as well. We have hit 2 hours, 22 minutes, so we should probably wrap it up. Chaotix, Mo, Serrated Viper, Griff, and Louise. If you've made it this far, we're very sorry. Finish wrapping.
I think that's been episode 6. Cheers for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.